I finally tried Subnautica for the first time to see if I thought it was any good based on first impressions. Here's how it went. But first, the intro. According to Steam's refund policy, Valve will issue a refund for any game you buy so long as it's been played for less than 2 hours. So I figured I'd play some games I've never tried before and review them based on first impressions alone. If for any reason a game doesn't impress me within the first 2 hours, I'll be refunding it. Welcome to today's episode of the Steam Refund Review. Subnautica is a 2018 survival crafting exploration game that takes place seemingly entirely underwater. The game was developed and published by Unknown Worlds Entertainment, and I've been told by tons of people that I have to give it a try, and with Subnautica 2 on the horizon, I figured what better time to give it a try than now. The Steam description for Subnautica reads, "Descend into the depths of an alien underwater world filled with wonder and peril. Craft equipment, pilot submarines, and outsmart wildlife to explore lush coral reefs, volcanoes, cave systems, and more, all while trying to survive." Well, consider me interested. This game sounds like it could be pretty cool. And you know, considering this game is an open world survival crafting game, I have my doubts that I'd want to refund it by the end of the 2-hour window, but you never know. The game has over 300,000 reviews on Steam, with 97% of those being positive, and received an 87 Metacritic score, so obviously it's well liked. I've almost always enjoyed survival crafting games in the past, so we'll have to see how this one stacks up to the others that I've played. Let's go ahead and jump in. So what did it look like as I jumped in? Well, I was introduced to the game by watching a cutscene in first person in which it seems that I was in a spaceship that was quickly descending towards an alien planet. And after getting knocked out by a rogue fire extinguisher, I woke up to a fire on board my ship that I quickly extinguished with the item that just nearly extinguished me earlier. I then realized that I was confined to a tiny escape pod type thing and decided to venture out into wherever it was that I had ended up, and I soon realized that I was going to have to really get good at swimming. Yep, water as far as the eye can see. The only thing I could see above the waves was the ship that had just crashed, so yeah, that's pretty terrifying. So with no other options, I decided to jump in and get my feet wet, pun intended. And initially I can say that the premise seems pretty interesting so far. I've never played a game where the open world is just a massive ocean, and I'm glad to see this unique take on the open world environment. But considering most people's most hated Mario levels are underwater, it was a bold move for the dev to make this decision. Anyway, after jumping into the water, I did initially feel overwhelmed by everything around me, but let's break it down just a bit more here to see how I felt as I continued to play. Alright, so as I continued to play, obviously I continued to learn more about the gameplay. As you would expect, I was able to freely explore the depths of this vast ocean planet, and all the while collect resources to create new items and help me survive and all that good stuff. The escape pod I started the game in seemed to act as like a home base in which I would return to store items, create new items, get fresh health packs, and so on. Since I was playing as a human and not an amphibian or a fish or something similar, I had a limited amount of time that I could spend exploring underwater, cause oxygen and all. This oxygen meter thing would indicate how long I had left to stay underwater to collect resources and explore. And I gotta say, initially I was pretty annoyed by this mechanic. It was like if you're trying to explore and collect resources in Minecraft, but you can only stand on the ground for so long before you have to walk back to a certain tile or else you'll risk death or something. That's kind of how it felt in the beginning, but after some more time I realized that I was able to craft an oxygen tank with some titanium that I was able to collect in the water. And this oxygen tank provided me with almost double the amount of time I was able to spend underwater, and further still, I was able to craft an even bigger capacity oxygen tank that almost doubled that capacity. And really it wasn't so bad after I was able to craft this higher capacity oxygen tank. And of course, since this is a survival game, I also had a hunger and thirst meter to look out for. I'm assuming if you ran out of these meters, you'd either start losing health or die immediately, I'm not sure. And while exploring, I found out I was able to catch fish to either eat or make water out of, break open different types of rocks to collect different resources from, and avoid fish that are out to get me. For example, this stupid little redfish that comes out of these sulfur pod things killed me like 2 times because as soon as I would come close, it would just follow me and explode when it was just really annoying. And part of the reasons it was so annoying is because it seemed like it came out of nowhere sometimes, and as much as I tried, I only managed to avoid getting hit by one like 1 out of the 10-ish times that I encountered them. It was like an alien homing torpedo. It was super dumb. But anyway, I saw a ton of other fish swimming around the environment, like these big bootied ones that would release gas when you startle them, but I'm not sure what all these other fish were used for. I get the impression that each different types of fish has its own usefulness for something or another, but I'm not sure. Other than all that though, it seems that there's a ton of stuff to explore, and I felt like I didn't even scratch the surface yet. I was too scared of running out of oxygen. The crafting system also seemed pretty robust, with different sections like things to improve your character, deployable items, food and water, and so on. I was also able to craft this scanner thing that allowed me to scan different things in the world to be added to this compendium of sorts to give me information on what I might need. And that's about all I was able to get out of the first 2 hours I played, and like I said, I think I didn't even begin to scratch the surface of what this game has to offer as far as exploration and probably a lot of other things. As far as the story goes, I wasn't able to really tell exactly what was going on within my first 2 hours of playing. It seemed like the scanner that I used gave me bits of lore and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy. I can't help but feeling though that there has to be some sort of story here that I'm supposed to be working through as I play, since the opening cinematic didn't seem to be inconsequential. My guess is that I'm going to craft bigger and better things with all the resources I collect to somehow be able to eventually build like a ship or something to return to my home planet, and all the while learn the lore of this ocean planet, but I don't know. I could be wrong, but remember, this is just from only my first 2 hour impressions and having never played this game before. And moving on to graphics, the graphics themselves were nothing to write home about in my personal opinion, but I do think that the underwater world was pretty cool and clever. Like I said, I didn't get to explore much, but there were caves and reefs and beautiful scenery all around, and all the fish looked unique and had really cool designs. I did think that they did a good job with the water textures when looking at the vast sea from the escape pod thing, and I only mention that because it's important considering the game is seemingly all underwater. And last but not least, moving on to sound design. The sound design of this game was pretty sweet. I liked the music that played all the while I was exploring. The fish would also make some pretty cool sounds that were, again, all unique to each species and all that good stuff. Also, the AI companion robot thing that was in my suit, I guess, saying oxygen each time I started to run low on O2 while underwater gave me anxiety every time, so that was obviously effective. Alright, so what are my overall thoughts on this game after just 2 hours of playing? This game seems pretty cool, but it definitely didn't wow me in the first 2 hours or anything. I kind of feel like that all chalks up to it having a pretty slow start though. I think it's definitely intrigued me to the point where I want to see more of the game, and I want to see if it really does have a story, or if it's all just about surviving on this planet as long as you can. If I'm being honest, I was pretty bored for the first hour of playing, and just kinda meh or decent on it during hour 2. But hey, before revealing my final verdict, let's talk about the game's value just a bit. Subnautica is priced at $30 on the Steam store, and according to HowLongToBeat.com, takes about 30 hours to beat and over 50 hours to fully complete. This seems to be a pretty decent value if you're into these types of games. Alright, so what's my rating on this game on a scale of 1 to 10 based on just my first 2 hours of gameplay? So far I would give this game a 7.5 out of 10. I didn't like it much at all at first, but it got better as I kept going, and I'm interested to see what else it has to offer. But am I interested enough to keep it in my library and try it again? Well, I guess I can say that I'm glad this isn't a 1 hour playtest versus a 2 hour playtest, since my first hour, like I said, had me pretty darn bored. I did feel my enjoyment and interest climbing as I played though, which I'm happy about because if not, I probably would have refunded it. Since it seemed like it was getting better and better though after 2 hours, this one will get a replay it verdict. So what did you think of this review? Leave me a comment, and also go ahead and tell me what game you want to see me play next in this format. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Okay, love you, bye.